Has it reached a stalemate? Watch Connecting the Dots at these times, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I am Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Foreign and Defence Ministers of India and the US hold annual 2+2 ministerial dialogue in New Delhi. Rajnath Singh says US-India partnership essential for open, rules-bound Indo-Pacific. The US says Israel agrees to a 4-hour daily pause in fighting in northern Gaza to allow civilians to flee to safety. And President Emmanuel Macron of France opens the 6th edition of Paris Peace Forum. New Delhi hosted the 5th edition of the India-US 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue on Friday. The foreign and defence ministers of the two countries took part in the meeting. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh says that the India-US bilateral ties have seen a growing convergence of strategic interests and enhanced defence, security and intelligence cooperation.
The India-US bilateral relationship has seen a growing convergence of strategic interests and enhanced defense, security, and intelligence cooperation. Defense remains one of the most important pillars of our bilateral relationship. Your visit to India is at a time when India and US are closer than ever before. In spite of various emerging geopolitical challenges, we need to keep our focus on the important and long-term issues.
And US Defense Minister Lloyd Austin says the increasingly strong ties between India and the US gives him hope for the future of the relationship and for their common efforts towards a more secure world.
Our partnership is rooted in the people-to-people ties that are the heart of our long-standing friendship. Together, our diplomats, entrepreneurs, and students are expanding our partnership in new domains, including clean energy, artificial intelligence, and semiconductors. Our increasingly strong ties give us all hope for the future of this partnership and for our common efforts toward a more secure world.
India's Foreign Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar says that the meeting reviewed the strategic, defense and security ties, besides technology and supply chain collaborations and people-to-people exchanges.
In the 2+2, we will undertake, as we have done before, a comprehensive overview of cross-cutting strategic defense and security ties, technology and supply chain collaborations, and people-to-people exchanges. Our trade is today in excess of $200 billion US. FDI is rising in both directions. 270,000 Indian students study in the United States, and we have a diaspora of 4.4 million. A key focus of our discussions today will be the Indo-Pacific region.
Minister Jaishankar also says that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the US in June and US President Joe Biden's visit to New Delhi in September have strengthened the India-US ties.
Highlight this year was the Prime Minister's historic state visit to the United States in June, which has truly opened a new chapter in our relationship. President Biden's visit to Delhi in September contributed immensely as well to the positive trajectory of our ties. His support was key to ensuring productive outcomes at the G20 summit. The dialogue today will be an opportunity to advance the vision of our respective leaders, building a forward-looking partnership while we construct a shared global agenda.
For his part, U.S. Foreign Minister Antony Blinken says India and the U.S. are harnessing the power of innovation to make their economies more resilient. When both countries study, work and collaborate together, the possibilities of progress, he says, are infinite.
We're deepening the remarkable ties between our people, which is really at the heart of everything. Exploring new educational exchanges, even building on what you've already described. Steps to facilitate travel between our countries, reducing visa wait times. If there's one thing we've learned over the recent decades, it's that when Indians and Americans study together, work together, collaborate together, the possibilities for progress are infinite.
Now, Blinken held a separate meeting with Jaishankar before the 2+2 talks. The two foreign ministers shook hands and greeted each other before heading for the 2+2 ministerial dialogue. The two spoke about further developing the bilateral strategic partnership, besides holding discussions on West Asia, the Indo-Pacific and other issues. India's foreign ministry detailed the outcome of the 5th India-US 2+2 ministerial dialogue at a press conference held in the capital, New Delhi.
Discussed of multiple partnerships, the trade and investment partnership, the technology partnership, partnerships relating to the emerging area of critical and emerging technologies, value chain and supply chain securitization of different products and services, partnership in the field of space, our continuing engagement in the field of mineral securities through the Mineral Security Partnership Framework, our common efforts in combating terrorism. These all and much more formed part of the overview of bilateral relationship that was undertaken by the principals earlier in the 2+2 dialogue.
India's Foreign Minister Secretary, also says that the meetings were indicative of enduring commitment of India-US bilateral partnership.
Dialogue has actually helped both India and the US to energize the multifaceted India-US cooperation and reaffirmed our partnership, the objectives and the goals inherent in it. We are grateful to the principals for guiding our efforts to elevate the India-US relations.
And joining me is my colleague Akshay Dongre from New Delhi. Akshay, how did the India-US talks go and what did the foreign and defense ministers of India and the US discuss?
Well, a range of issues were discussed as far as the Defense Minister of India and the Defense Secretary of the United States of America meeting is concerned. They talked about the Indo-Pacific region. They talked about other global issues, conflicts, how interoperability, how synergy between the two forces can be enhanced. As far as future cooperations are concerned between the two forces, there have been increasing number of bilateral military exercises in which both the armies of US, armies of India, the Air Force, Navy, all of the forces of these two countries hold a bilateral military exercises in which both of them work together and know about the best practices used by the respective forces. Besides that, one of the key issues that was discussed, in fact, as far as the two leaders are concerned, was about how the two countries can co-produce the cutting-edge technology as far as the military technology is concerned. India, as we know that India is in fact going to produce the GE 414 engines, that the General Electric engines that the US has given permission for. India is already procuring MQ-9 Reaper drones. India already operates several transport aircraft from the United States of America. So as far as the two countries are concerned, the interoperability has been good because of the recent exercises, but it is going to be enhanced, is what the vision the two countries have. And besides that, all of the global concerns, global issues, conflicts were discussed, and how the two countries can come together to resolve similar kind of situation if it erupts in future.
Indeed, and very quickly, Akshay, the Foreign and Defence Secretaries of India addressed a news conference after the talks concluded. How did they characterize the 2+2 talks in terms of, say, optics and outcomes, specifically the Indo-Pacific and the Quad, for instance, or technology as well as people-to-people ties?
Well, the two leaders, when they discussed these issues of Indo-Pacific region, of the issues of mutual interest, they discussed them in a wide range of talks. As far as the press conference was concerned, it termed the meeting as a very rewarding meeting that took place. This is an excellent platform where the two largest democracies send their best leaders to hold discussions over the pertinent issues of mutual benefit. But as far as the other issues are concerned of individual interest for both these countries, for example, the Ukraine war, the Israel-Hamas conflict, the issues that India has as far as the Indo-Pacific region is concerned, the growing hegemonic tendencies of China, all of them were discussed, and that is what the conclusion of the talks were, that these talks are rewarding, but it remains to be seen that how will the agenda will be implemented upon.
All right, we'll leave it at that, Akshay. Thank you. That was Akshay Dongri reporting from New Delhi. Moving on to other news now, Israeli forces tightened security and erected barriers in the streets of East Jerusalem ahead of the Friday prayers. Worshippers are expected to gather at Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa to hold prayers amid the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Muslims regard the site as the third holiest in Islam, and it is known to Jews as Temple Mount. The Israeli army released footage, it says, shows Hamas targets being hit in western Jabalia in Gaza. Israeli troops also struck a shipping container located near a beach containing approximately 20 rocket launchers. The footage shows the troops searching the container before reportedly confiscating the weapons. The footage was released 2 days after the Israeli military said its troops had secured a Hamas military stronghold called Compound 17 in Jabalia in northern Gaza after a 10-hour battle with Hamas and Islamic Jihad above and below the ground. Now, Israel's air, sea and land bombardment of Gaza, accompanied now by a ground assault deep inside the enclave, aims to destroy the Hamas, which controls Gaza. The White House says Israel agrees to a 4-hour daily pause in fighting in northern Gaza to allow civilians to flee to safety. More in the next report.
As the Israel-Hamas conflict entered its second month, White House on Thursday said that Israel has agreed to pause operations in self-defense in northern Gaza for 4 hours a day. The pauses would allow people to flee along 2 humanitarian corridors and will be announced 3 hours in advance.
There will be 2 humanitarian corridors allowing people to flee the areas of hostilities in the northern part of Gaza. The first such corridor, open between 4 and 5 hours every day for the past few days, has already enabled many thousands of people to reach safer areas. The second route along the coastal road will enable many more thousands to reach safer areas in the south.
US President Joe Biden's administration said that it has secured a second pathway for civilians to flee fighting, and also that humanitarian pauses in Gaza aim to get up 158 trucks daily to increase the flow of food, water and medicine into the region. The United Nations has said that any halt to fighting between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip for humanitarian purposes would need to be coordinated with the United Nations.
Well, we've just seen the press reports not long ago. I mean, how any such halt in the fighting and how it would work for humanitarian purposes would need to be coordinated with the United Nations, especially on the issue of timings and location. And obviously, in order for this to be done safely for humanitarian purposes, it would have to be agreed with all parties to the conflict to be truly effective.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Thursday that his country does not seek to govern Gaza after its war against Hamas, even as the army will continue its offensive until Hamas is eradicated. India once again strongly condemned the horrific attack on Israel, urged the need for zero tolerance for terrorism and called for immediate and unconditional release of hostages.
And still to come on DD India Live. Paris Peace Forum discusses global challenges such as migration, climate change and Gaza. Putin reviews the Ukraine war with his military top brass. And ransomware hits the US arm of Industrial and Commercial Bank of China.
Which way is the Russia-Ukraine war heading? Has it reached a stalemate? Watch Connecting the Dots at these times, only on DD India.
A platform. You're watching DD India Live. I am Ramesh Ramachandran. French President Emmanuel Macron arrived at Palais Brongniart on Friday for the opening of the Paris Peace Forum. Delegates are meeting at the annual assembly, one of Macron's many diplomatic projects. On the table are global challenges from migration and climate change to the crisis in Gaza. More than 50 nations are attending, including the United States and regional powers such as Jordan and Egypt. DD India's Rebecca Bundan reports from Paris. Take a look.
Paris Peace Forum is really focused on trying to promote good governance, and there are a lot of key themes that are being discussed here, including peace and security, climate change, the rise of technology, and particularly regulation around the use of artificial intelligence. That's a topic that's being very widely discussed at this forum, and other matters including migration, poverty. And this forum is gathering together political leaders, including, of course, French President Emmanuel Macron. We're also seeing Microsoft's president, Brad Smith, and, for example, the World Bank chief, Ajay Banga. All these leaders and business figures, or international organizations coming together to really discuss these key topics as the world is facing so many major challenges at this point in time. Analysts say is that expectations have to be managed in terms of what a forum like this can achieve. And they say we shouldn't really expect any major breakthroughs as such. However, they do say that this is a really important forum and a platform for these topics to be discussed, and hopefully to try to promote cooperation between the political sphere, the business world, and civil society. And on the sidelines of the Paris Peace Forum, we've also seen on Thursday there was a conference for humanitarian aid for Gaza taking place, and there's also been this summit on poles and glaciers and the impact that global warming is having on those fragile environments. And that's expected to result in a call for action for more to be done to try to protect these environments. So that's seen as a positive development that's likely to come through from the conference, as climate change is one of the major focuses for the event.
Russian President Vladimir Putin met his Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and top generals at the Southern Military Grouping's headquarters in Rostov. Putin discussed the Ukraine war with them. A Kremlin statement said that Putin heard reports on the progress of what Russia calls a special military operation in Ukraine. The statement also said that Putin was shown new models of military equipment. Portugal's President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa has called a snap election on the 10th of March. The announcement comes after Socialist Prime Minister Antonio Costa offered his resignation following the arrest of his chief of staff as part of an anti-corruption investigation. Speaking after meeting his consultative body, the Council of State, President Rebelo said that the government will function for now, But the election was needed to provide clarity and direction to overcome an unexpected void that surprised and disturbed the Portuguese. The U.S. arm of Industrial and Commercial Bank of China has been hit by a cyber attack. A notice on the company's website confirmed that it had experienced a ransomware attack that resulted in disruption to certain systems starting on Wednesday. The attack caused immediate disruption, with members forced to reroute trades. Many were uncertain when access would resume. Officials suspect Lockbit to be behind the attack. It's a criminal gang that also been linked to hits on Boeing and the UK Postal Service. The Philippines criticized China's coast guards on Friday, accusing them of unprovoked acts, including using a water cannon against one of its boats to disrupt a resupply mission in the South China Sea. The Philippines said that China's actions not only endangered lives, but also cast doubts on its sincerity for peaceful dialogue. In response, China's Coast Guard claimed that the Philippines entered Chinese waters without permission, urging them to respect Beijing's sovereignty. U.S. President Joe Biden threw his support behind the United Auto Workers' efforts to unionize employees at a car plant in the state of Illinois. It was his first stop before heading to Chicago for a campaign reception. Biden's visit focused on reopening an assembly plant that Stellantis closed back in March. Biden called for unionization across the auto industry and embraced the broader labor movement.
The auto companies were doing incredibly well. So auto workers should be doing incredibly well as well. You saved the auto industry, and they should step up for you. A simple proposition. And my administration announced a $12 billion to convert the existing auto factories to manufacture electric vehicles if they're in the transition. Because I strongly believe when a company transitions to a new technology, they should retool, reboot, and rehire in the same factories with the same workers in the same community that existed there before.
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration greenlit the world's first chikungunya vaccine called IXCHIQ for a virus recognized as a global health threat. The vaccine is administered as a single dose by injection into the muscle and is safe for people 18 years of age and older. The chikungunya virus is transmitted to humans through the bite of an infected mosquito and has 5 million cases of infection reported during the past 15 years. This virus is commonly found in tropical regions of Africa, Southeast Asia, and parts of the Americas. Take a look now at some more stories making news around the world. Russian government has told its fuel producers to prepare for the scrapping of all remaining restrictions on the export of diesel and gasoline. The ban will be lifted once the domestic market stabilizes. The restrictions were slightly eased on October the 6th to allow the export of diesel by pipeline, but prevented the export of gasoline. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese signed a bilateral agreement with the island nation of Tuvalu on Friday. The pact covers climate change, security, and human mobility. It also aims at countering China's influence in the Indo-Pacific. In a London High Court ruling, Prince Harry, singer Elton John, and 5 other high-profile British figures can have their lawsuit against the publisher of the Daily Mail paper. The 5 claimants have accused the publishing house of serious privacy breaches dating back 30 years. 3 giant pandas have reached China's Sichuan province after a 19-hour flight from the United States. The 3 pandas arrived at the Washington National Zoo in the year 2000 as long-serving goodwill ambassadors to the U.S. Capitol. Their mother is the oldest giant panda ever to give birth in the United States. And now to news from the world of sport. To the Cricket World Cup first. Afghanistan are facing South Africa at the Narendra Modi Stadium in India's western city of Ahmedabad. Batter Azmatullah Omarzai guided Afghanistan to 244 runs. He remained unbeaten on 97. Afghan captain Hashmatullah Shahidi won the toss and chose to bat. But the decision immediately backfired as Afghanistan lost 3 wickets for just 45 runs. Omarzai steadied the Afghan ship by adding 49 runs with Rahmat Shah for the 4th wicket and 44 runs with Noor Ahmed for the 8th wicket. For South Africa, Gerald Coetzee took 4 wickets while Lungi Ngidi and Keshav Maharaj took 2 wickets each. The outcome of the match is unlikely to have any impact on the semi-final race. India, South Africa and Australia have already qualified for the semis, and New Zealand is most likely to be the 4th team because of a better run rate. Father of Liverpool football star Luis Diaz, who was kidnapped 2 weeks ago, has been freed by Colombia's National Liberation Army. Diaz's father was seen at an airstrip in the city of Valledupar after he descended from a helicopter. Luis Manuel Diaz's kidnapping disrupted the government's peace talks with the rebels. The talks restarted last year with the hope of ending Colombia's 60-year conflict. The conflict has killed at least 450,000 people. The two sides began a 6-month ceasefire in August. The insurgent group said a week ago that it would free Diaz's father, but then there was a back and forth between the group and the government that made things a little uncertain. Al Ahly surrendered a 2-0 lead in the Saudi Pro League on Thursday and drew 2-2 away to Damak in Aba. The visitors opened the scoring in the 10th minute from a corner as defender Abdul Basit Hindi rose highest to head home. Sumehan Al-Nabid then made it 2 just before the break. He put the finishing touch on a silky run from former Manchester City winger Riyad Mahrez. Damak captain Farouk Chafai pulled one back for the hosts against their star-studded opponents with 15 minutes to go before former Al Ahly forward and Romanian international Nicolae Stanciu bagged the equalizer to deny this former club all 3 points. And that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website, ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I am Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.